listening to Wake Up Hollywood with Nikki Korula and Eddie Pence, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Wake Up Hollywood. This is your host with the most, Nikki Korula. We're going to jump right into this interview. Tonight we have Oriel and Carlos Jimenez, the producer duo for a new film that comes out April 1st called Burn. How are you both?
Oh. Great. How are you?
Woo-hoo! We made this happen. I'm so excited. So, First of all, I want to ask, you both met in the Marines. Individually, tell me how you guys met, what made you want to join the Marines, because just the fact that you guys are filmmakers and producers and creators and you came from the Marines, I have to tell you, that is a first for any of my guests. So it's such an ingenious way to become creators, and I just want to know more about that. So tell me how you got into the Marines, what it took to get in, and what made you go in, and then how you met.
You want to go first?
Oriel, you go first. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, ladies first.
Okay. So graduating after high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in college. So instead of wasting my time, I was like, why not go shoot guns and jump out of planes and run around and stay physically fit? So I, went through the different branches and decided the Marines were the toughest, the strongest, strong-minded in their minds, and that's what I wanted to do. So I went and joined the Marine Corps.
And did you have family that were in it before, or was this totally blind? You just went, I'm going to go do this.
It was kind of totally blind. I do have on my stepdad's side, their whole family's Air Force, but it wasn't really like, it didn't give me direction to kind of do that. It was just kind of like, I'm not going to waste 4 years and a lot of money going to school, not knowing what I really wanted to do.
Right.
And so I figured it would be a strong choice.
That is a super strong choice. First of all, I don't know what to do. I'm going to get yelled at for a little bit and run laps and just make sure I get my shit together, because that is one way to get it done for sure. So I applaud that. Carlos, what about you?
I honestly, I wasn't. I'm not like Oriel. I actually didn't even know what I wanted to do, and this guy showed up at my door, and he had this uniform on. And to be honest, at the time, I thought he was a policeman. And he wanted it. I was like, "Who's this guy?"
You're like, "What I do?"
Yeah. So I grew up in Chicago, and my mom knew I was kind of misguided a little bit, needed a little bit of direction, a little bit of structure. So she allowed this Marine Corps recruiter in, and again, like I said, I thought he was a policeman, but then my mom said it'd be really good for me to go, so I went and stuff like that, and it took me about a year to get in because I still didn't want to go, but it's actually the best thing I ever did in my life. If it wasn't for the Marine Corps, I wouldn't be a filmmaker. So
you wouldn't have met me.
And I wouldn't have met my wife, of course, but we're going to get to the part where we met, right? So once I joined, it was pretty much a whirlwind because, I came from a neighborhood in Chicago where a lot of gang violence, and they pretty much taught me how to.
Well, I lost you for a second. Say it one more time. You said you were in Chicago, and then the Marines showed up. And then your mom said you need to go, and then I lost you.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. So basically, I went because I needed to get out of the hood. The hood was not a good spot for me.
Were you in the south side of Chicago?
West side of Chicago, which they never talk about very much. It's pretty ironic because the south side or north side are pretty much the largest sides of the city. But on the west side, Latin neighborhoods and stuff like that, we never ever get headlines, which is funny, which is really weird, but. Wow. Yeah, so that's where I grew up, and I needed a little bit of direction. Again, the Marine Corps provided that, and again, because of them, I became a filmmaker. What I did was, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's amazing. Go on.
No, yeah. So what they did, I went to California, and I was in Oceanside, California, and I worked part-time at a movie theater in Oceanside. and I watched lots of movies there, and it provided an escape from the Marine Corps. Because again, at first I didn't like it. I didn't like the structure. I was like this wild bronco, But the movies provided an escape for me. I was able to kind of sit there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, or what have you, and just put myself in someone else's shoes and just imagine and just be in Fantasyland for that long. And I said, this is something I want to do. This is who I am. I want to tell stories. There's a lot of things I want to do. So yeah, that's the reason that, they introduced me to Saving Private Ryan, which is the first war movie I ever watched, because again, being naive, I thought war movies were stupid, but when I saw that,
you joined the Marines.
I know. Again, very naive kid. And again, they put the structure in me, and when I saw Saving Private Ryan, I was like, oh my God, I felt World War II. I felt what those people went through, and I wanted to kind of convey that in stories. I want people to feel how I felt in that theater. So, yeah.
And then how'd you two meet? Were you in the same kind of like, I don't even know, is it that do you call it the same corps? What is the group that you're in?
Yeah, we wound up being stationed together at the same battalion, and we met each other. We were friends for quite some time. And then, we just started dating and stuff. And, Carlos, we decided that we were going to leave California and move to Chicago and go to college there. So we went to Columbia College, Chicago. I studied marketing. Carlos studied film. And we've been together 23 years.
That's amazing. And you know what? That's like did you have an idea, like, you study marketing, I'll study film, we'll be a powerhouse duo? How did you kind of like?
Well, it's funny. It's funny because like at the time, there was no internet. This is 1999. So I wanted to study film, and the thing is, like, I was studying, looking up these schools, and Columbia kind of stuck out to me. And I told Ariel, I said, I think I want to do this whole film thing. I think it might be kind of cool. And Ariel started going to the brochure. I remember we were in our little apartment over in Fallbrook, and she's like looking through it. And she's like, oh my God, this marketing thing feels good for me. It felt for her like it was a perfect fit, and that's when we said, okay, sure, let's go back to Chicago and do this. And we did, it's
awesome.
Yeah. It was pretty fun.
And then tell me, like, you're both in completely different wings of school. Mm-hmm. Because I went to music school, and it's like my friends were in business school. We were in completely different universes. So how did you kind of like, find a parallel in that, or kind of have it nurture your relationship or connection together? Because those are two different mindsets. One's creative, one's like business minded. You're thinking about statistics and kind of showcasing things. So tell me how those complemented each other, and then also how they differed from each other.
Well, I think that, it was different. I knew he wanted to study film, and marketing is kind of I'm more logistics. I'm more like a numbers person, contracts and stuff like that. I worked at a law firm the whole time while I was going to college and stuff. And so, that was kind of like my realm. And he was more of like that creative process. So it kind of just worked. Like, we weren't stepping on each other's shoes at all, And it just wound up working out. And then how I dropped into film is because of the housing market crash in 2008 that happened.
Right. All the Fannie Mae stuff, right?
Yeah, all the Fannie Mae stuff, everything just crashed. And all of a sudden, there was no advertising budgets at all. No corporations had any money. Everybody went to guerrilla marketing. Nobody wanted to spend anything. They were just like paying promo models to come out and kind of showcase their stuff. And so it was like, okay, I'm a freelancer here I'm a consultant in marketing. And it was like, okay, what the hell am I going to do? So I started jumping on doing a little bit of stuff in film. And then, voila, I'm a film producer.
That's right. Well, it's kind of like you have the business acumen, kind of figure out how to market something and promote something, really. And then also do the numbers. And that's really what producing is, especially with film world. You know, it's such a big part of it. And Carlos, I assume you were working on digital and film, or did you just do one or the other?
No, I started, well, actually it was film school. You know, I did 16 millimeter, 35 millimeter film, and that's what I did. It was film, you know, and that's where my foundation's at. So, it was such a different time then, you know, and now in hindsight, I look at it like, wow, we used to have conversations about digital taking over, and we're like, digital's never going to take over. It's never going to have the resolution. It's never going to have, you know, it's never going to look as good. You know, film is better. And even to this day, I mean, I shot film 2 years ago, and I've been shooting digital, and oh my God, the things we can do with digital nowadays, you know, is amazing. You know, it's provided a tool to a lot of independent filmmakers now. You can shoot with your phone. You know, just recently we also actually have a film out in the film festivals right now that was shot on a phone. You know, and again, I've shot everywhere from 35 millimeter to a phone, and honestly, it's all in the expression. You know, it depends on the story and stuff, and what you're trying to express, and what you and also what you're allowed to have as tools. You know, so yeah, I mean, again, you know, I think the foundation I got at Columbia was very imperative, because when I get on set, it's like I have this very fundamental base, you know, this foundation that I have and stuff like that. And I see very clearly how things need to get done. You block, you light, you rehearse, you tweak, you shoot, and you keep doing that process. It's just it's a process that I try to explain to every director I work with. And Patrick Lazara, you know, understood that process, you know, and it's really, you know, working with him was like, you know, it was like awesome, because he's very clear about what he wants. And the thing is about being a cinematographer is to find a director that's clear about their vision, you know. And again, I'm not saying to some directors that, oh, if you don't have your vision, you can't shoot. That's not true. It's my job as a DP to get their vision out of their head and kind of like lay it out. You know, I know the technical stuff. If I have a director that can do that, great. If I don't, no problem. But it's my job to get that vision out. But Patrick is like so passionate about crime stories, thrillers, and he's just always about these mob boss stories, and he just loves these things. I mean, and it's such a breath of fresh air too, because it's got a little bit of like retroactive kind of things going on, a little bit of you know, nostalgia, if you say, you know, Rocky, you know, Cobra, like all these great films, and then, you know, again, he's just so passionate about his stories, and you know, I like working with the guy. You know, there's an honesty there, there's a trust. You know, so
you know, at the end of the day, it's like you want to work. I find that, you know, with just being in a band and touring, at the end of the day, you want to just work with people that you enjoy being around, that are wanting to be in the moment, to create and, you know, make it a positive thing. And that's what gets the movies finished. You know, I've been working on this animated project, and we've been going to film festivals and whatnot. And it's like, at all these film festivals, everybody says the reward is making the film and getting it finished. And the fact that you guys even did that is huge, because most people don't even get to that point. There's so many roadblocks, and film is like such an expensive medium, and it's also you have to be highly organized. It just you can't waste time. That's just the way it is. There's so many people involved. So tell me a little bit how you met Patrick, and then how the process of when you shot Burn, how that came together, and what were the steps that you took before you kind of went into pre-production or, you know, starting the film.
You start this, Carlos.
Yeah. I was working on a low-budget zombie movie. It was my first feature in LA, and I wanted to do it. It was really low budget. You know, we were shooting on DSLRs when they were kind of hot at the time, and we were in this little cabin out in Anza, California, and it was interesting because the set was the house that we were sleeping in. So we, you know, in the mornings we'd dress the set, we'd light the set, we'd rehearse, we shoot it and stuff like that. And then at night we'd go to bed, and then then it reversed, you know, because we had to shoot night stuff. And, you know, and then we shoot all night, and then, you know, and we in the morning we, you know, we'd be sleeping in the set. But anyway, so Patrick was, you know, he saw my process on set. You know, again, the set was kind of a little bit, I wouldn't say disorganized, but there was not like
guerrilla style. It's guerrilla.
Yeah, it's hard. You know how it's hard. You know, it's hard. And I tried to like instill positive energy on the set. I always told everybody, stay within the 16:9. Don't worry about anything that's going around you. I go, just stay within the frame, and I go, and it will be all right. And Patrick really, he enjoyed what we were doing. And then I brought Ariel. I called her. I said, hey, babe, I'm getting my ass kicked out here. I go, I need you to come out here and kind of organize us and stuff like that, and just get us going and flowing and stuff like that. And she came out. She provided a much needed, energy and boost that we needed.
You can say whip cracker because she was
in the shape. Hey guys, fucking sisters, we gotta go and shoot. And then she provided food because we didn't have any food on set. It was like it was a nightmare. But anyway, so Patrick was like, "Hey, dude, you're shooting my movie," and I was just like, "Okay." I was like, "Sure." And at the time, the movie was called "Do Not Disturb." And it was this story about, I was, at the time he pitched to me, it was like, hey, it's this story about this hitman that gets a call about his brother, and his brother's in trouble because he killed the crime lord's wife, and I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. And so we kind of sat down, discussed the film, and he sent over the script, and I was like, okay, this sounds pretty doable because I'm thinking budget, I'm thinking logistics, I'm thinking technical stuff like that. And he just, hey, listen, all we're going to do is build a motel set. We're going to, tell the story inside the motel set, and we're going to do it in flashbacks. And every time we go to those flashbacks, it'll propel the story forward. So it's still in a fractured storyline. I said, okay, sure, let's do it. And in 2014, we were able to kind of like put together a 2.5 week shoot over in Orange County, and we found a studio there, which is no longer there anymore, unfortunately. But they were very helpful to us. They provided a space for us to shoot, lighting and grip equipment, camera equipment. I mean, it was a deal. And
we built 3 sets, crazy.
Yeah, we built the motel set there, which is the primary set. Mm-hmm. We built the crime lord's office. And
how long did that take? That had to take weeks just to make months.
Our production designer, Kevin Williams, was amazing. I mean, he put together a few plots, overheads, color palettes, and we kind of discussed over meetings over the first few months what the place was going to look like, and he just went to work. I mean, the guy did not stop. He was like a one-man wrecking band. I mean, wow. he brought in over a couple of carpenters to kind of help out build the set. But when he finished, man, I mean, it was spot on in terms of like what we were seeing in the motel room, because we were contemplating, should we go shoot at a real motel room? Could we, get in there and really, get this done?
But the cost efficiency too.
To ask that, yeah.
No,
just would have been insane, especially in Los Angeles. Like you're just killing yourself with your budget on locations when we needed to spend money on so many other things.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did you even justify or like figure out that it was going to cost that much less to build a motel set or separate?
Well, it's because of the time. Because the thing is, like, motel rooms, in order for us to find the perfect motel room, as I was always telling Patrick, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna get the right camera angle there. I don't know if I'm able to fit the camera. We need to move walls. We need to get depth. And it's just like, it made more sense, because if not, if we did a live motel room, we were gonna have to have another motel room next to us to have a kind of a production office, and then shoot for X amount of weeks there, and it would have been longer because we wouldn't have any control. And the whole thing about filmmaking is that everybody in filmmaking that's at their craft is a control freak at some point. They control the art, the camera, the lighting, the acting, whatever it is, and it just it made total sense for us to have that control, mm-hmm. because independent filmmakers, you don't have the luxury to, file for permits and block off streets and tell people to be quiet. And this space made sense because there was nobody going to make noise. Yeah. There was nobody going to tell us to go anywhere. And the sound, sound's so critical. So it made sense budgetary wise, creative wise, and we did it. But the thing is, we weren't done at 2014 when we did those 2.5 weeks there. Yeah, what we didn't realize was the film was going to take another 6 years to finish.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
It is, because the thing is, Ariel and I and Patrick, we're always discussing to get some sort of funding for the film. And the funding primarily at the first of it, we were lucky to get an Indiegogo campaign going, and we were able to get about 15K to start. And then we ended up spending about another 20K there. And then at that point, we're like, okay, we have to stop because all the rest of the funding was coming from our own pockets.
Yeah. So
at that point, it was like, after that was like favors. I knew a lot of people in the business with cameras and lighting and grip. At the time, and I still am, Local 728, so I'm a member of the union there. So I was able to pull off some favors. Patrick was able to get the actors together and kind of, they donated some of their time. We were able to pay some of them when we could, and then we were shooting at our house, like my house, Patrick's house. And there was a critical piece there too, was the restaurant. And the restaurant is a downtown location, which is impossible to close. And Patrick is a manager there now, but at the time he didn't have the pull to kind of go, hey, listen, we need to shut down this place for a couple of days, or 3 days or whatever it was. I don't remember anymore, but to get, and shoot there at night, to get the actors, in there and stuff like that. So we had to cheat the place during the day, black out everything, and light it and shoot. And it was towards the end of the shoot, we were able to get that location, but it was such a critical piece. But I'm glad things happened the way they did, because now that's probably, in my opinion, some of the best looking stuff in the film. And
the whole thing is that we slowed it down. We were like, okay, we could either bang the rest of the movie out very quickly, done very cheaply, and it would look not as good as it does, or slow it down, take our time, and then take these weekends to shoot this section, and this way self-funding it made it a little bit more bearable. Yeah. And then this way we got to put together our project, and our movie is put together really nicely. It's not like, oh shit, oh sorry. It's not.
Yeah, don't worry.
It's not like we
already swore like 10 minutes ago.
I don't know, but we've been swearing on this whole thing. I mean, what are you talking about?
I swear like a sailor, so it's like, if this is my show, it's like I gotta have that. It's gotta be there. It's like, hey, listen, this is just gonna have to be part of the thing. So go ahead. Go ahead.
So we just, piecing it all together and just like slowing it down. And a lot of filmmakers tend to do that, where it's like, okay, well, let's just cut this so we can get this done. And we were like, nope, we're sticking to the script. We're going to make sure that this body of work is going to be a really good calling card for us. And it's going to be something that we're going to be proud of, even in 10, 15, 20 years. We're not going to be like, oh yeah, my first movie that I made was a piece of shit,
Right.
And so and I mean, that makes me proud.
I got to ask you a relationship question, because you guys are creating this movie. Mm-hmm. You're going through the trenches of making a movie and doing it guerrilla style on a limited budget.
Right.
And you're also married.
Right.
How did you take the producer hat off and the husband and wife hat back on? Because I'm sure there were many dinners or date nights you were talking about the movie, because it's on your mind. And I know that from also creating albums and just going through obstacles. So how did you deal with that and make that work? Because that's amazing in and of itself.
Yeah, I think, what's really good is being that I'm on the production side. I mean, yes, I am behind the monitor, and I am, giving my input and making decisions on if we needed to do another take, or this looks really good, and it's a collaborative effort between Carlos, myself, and Patrick. But I mean, it's being that I'm separated from them, really, because I'm doing all the paperwork and I'm on set. So we just maintain a very professional relationship when we're working. And then when we're at home, I mean, we have a daughter, we raised a family while we were making this movie.
Wow.
So it's just kind of like, it's like, okay, turn it off, turn it on, compartmentalize kind of is what you have to do.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then how did you keep it together? You said the whole movie in its span took about 7 years to make. Is that right?
Yeah. We started principal photography in 2014, but I mean, originally conception was in 2011. That's a whole other story in itself because Patrick was going through cancer when he actually wrote the film.
Yeah, I read that. I read that in the bio.
Yeah.
And he wrote this in like 3 days, right?
Yeah, he's a beast, dude. The guy's a beast. I mean, he just when he says, "Hey, I'm gonna write this," I go, "Sure," and boom, like he comes out with this draft, and you're like
we'll
dude.
get an email, like 2-3 days later, and it's like it's done.
It's just like he's a beast, you know. So, but yeah, it took a while to get that done. But it's like in order for us to kind of keep pace of things, we just kind of thank God for our editor Eugene Gordon, you know, who was a college buddy of mine. He just kind of like kept pace and stuff like that, and kept us kind of like, hey, you know, we need this to fit because it's a puzzle. You know, you're fitting all the pieces into the puzzle and stuff like that. And it was kind of fun too because you're just kind of like, okay, X these images are getting done, you know, but you know, Gene kept us organized in terms of like, okay, we got the scene here, we're done, and you know, you need to get these pieces here, and some of these pieces we would quote unquote steal them at some other location and stuff like that and cheat them and stuff. But yeah, if it wasn't for Gene, we wouldn't have had an edit as coherent as it is, you know, because again, it's a team effort. You know, you got to have people around you that are willing to kind of sacrifice and you know, for the all better good. I mean, it sounds cliche, you know, but it does take a village, you know, to get it done.
So how many total days of shooting and how many total days of shooting in that span? Like, did you do 10 days of shooting in year 1 and then by year 6, or are you also including the editing time for the duration of the film?
Oh
yeah, 10 years would be the whole film being complete, right?
No, but the shooting days, I would say like like photography days. If we had a schedule and had like a call sheet from it would be like day 1 of like 35. I would say if we had 35 shooting days, because the days cost us about $6,000 to $7,000, which is nothing. Obviously, some big Hollywood budget is nothing, but $6,000 to $7,000, $8,000 out of our own pockets. Especially when you have a family, you're living and you're living in LA. It doesn't. It's not.
No, and it's those big Hollywood movies are funded by fat cats. It's like,
yeah, totally.
When you're funding it yourself, it's a different thing.
Yeah, it's not
same thing when I fund my records, and it's like you're using every second because you're paying for it. It's not like the people that are funded by a label or an independent movie house. I mean, a commercial movie house that's funding your film, so you savor the time. 35 days is a lot. And then when you said you realized, how far into it did you realize, okay, we have half the movie, we still have another half to shoot?
That was probably in 2015 that we realized we had half the movie, because again, half the movie was shot in that studio over in Orange County. And then we decided to go do the weekend shoots. That's what ended up happening, is we started doing weekend shoots to knock out specific scenes. There'd be a scene of him talking with Laurel, we'd be there for a weekend. There'd be a scene of the restaurant or restaurant scenes, and that would be like 2 weekends, 4 shooting days. There'd be a scene in the desert. The desert scene was a nightmare because what happened was we shot the initial desert scene, but because we shot it in 2012, by the time we got up to principal photography in 2014, one of our main actors who played Seth had moved to Singapore. So at that point, we had to recast the role. Wow. So we had to reshoot that thing again. And again, I'm just going off of memory right now, but I'm gonna say that was about 3 shooting days in the desert. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna tell you right now, shooting in the desert is not easy.
No, it's not.
Especially in the middle of nowhere, you got all those elements against you: wind, time,
rain.
Rain, right. And then there were sound issues. It was
military planes,
and then getting drone shots. The stuff takes time. If you're going to make it look right, it's going to take a little bit of time. And obviously you're just kind of pressing because your money's burning, for the lack of a better word. It's burning while you're looking at it. You're like, oh my God! But we kind of stood pace. Trying to make that whole thing happen.
At least you shot it on digital. Like, I always think of Star Wars.
Oh, God.
You're shooting it on film in the desert. Yeah. Nothing worked. Everything kind of blew to smithereens. They didn't think they had anything. And then it became this epic movie that we all know and love now. So I commend you for even taking the chance to go to the desert and shoot. Let's play the trailer. We're going to play the trailer right now so we can get an idea and show our viewers what this movie's about. And then I've got some more questions for you guys.
Okay, awesome.
What do you do besides drive?
That's between you and your husband. I'm not saying a word. You know this can get us killed. I gotta be out of my mind.
Just shut up.
Maximilian. Got something that's gonna test your mettle. It's about your brother. He did it this time.
Can you hand me a match?
Christ. Mr. P wants him put down, period. You got a couple of days. He's my brother.
I want to show you something. That's your brother. And my wife.
You want me to kill my own brother? That's not gonna be a problem, is it, Maximilian? Where's he at? Good answer. Relax, I'm here to help.
How'd you know I was here?
We gotta get you out of town. As soon as the sun drops, we're out of here.
I'm as good as dead, aren't I?
Yeah, he'll be coming.
Who else is coming for me?
Come here.
Really happen like that?
I think that I love you.
I shouldn't trust anyone right now, you know.
I won't tell if you don't.
What do you plan on doing with that gun? Cha cha cha. You know I could kill you for being so stupid.
Who knows? He's always known.
You killed me, they'll just send somebody else and they'll keep coming till you're dead.
That was awesome. That looks so good. It looks so clean. So
Thanks.
good.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. I want to ask you real quick, Carlos. So what did you shoot this on? Did you get a Red? Did you use a Canon?
Oh my God, that's a very loaded question because well, how about this? Well, when we were in Orange County, we shot on the Red Epic 6K camera at the time with some Cooke lenses, S4Is. But as time went on, we didn't have the capability to kind of get those that camera package again. So we started shooting on Alexa. I shot on the Mira. I shot on the Canon C300 Mark II, Mark I. I shot on a DJI Inspiron. I shot on Black Magic BMC Pro when it came out. So as the years were going on, it was like these new technologies were coming out. And I look at Burn in retrospect, and I'm like, I shot in a whole lot of cameras, and I learned a lot of cameras, and it's funny because you look at the flashbacks and they have a specific look to them now because of it. You shot them with different cameras, so you have a different feel. But thank God we shot the motel stuff all with the same camera, and the stuff that was outside was different, But it was just, trying to make them all feel the same was I intuitively, I just kind of, my background is really good with lighting. I have a very good, background with lighting. So I just made sure that was, the lighting was kind of the same, or if it was in a scene that was like, took place, X amount of months ago, I try to make it look a little bit, more, retro and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a lot of cameras that we shot with,
And luckily we had so many rental houses that were so gracious to us that they were letting us, for really, really cheap prices, we got really, really high quality lenses. So we kind of, that kind of made up for stuff like that too.
Yeah, Ariel working at the camera house was pretty awesome.
Images. They hooked us up.
Yeah, Radiant Images and the camera division. Yeah,
those are like the unsung heroes of film. It's like that's when people have compassion for the craft, and they also want to see you coming back and making more movies and using them. But it's all those little things. Like more of the industry needs to realize everybody needs each other. Whether it's like you're on the other side of the camera or you're behind the scenes doing all the marketing and all of that stuff. Then the camera rental houses. Then it's set design. It's everything is one part of the puzzle. So it's like what's so amazing is when you finish it and when you have a trailer that looks like this. Did you kind of edit the trailer first and then keep hashing away at the movie, or did you kind of find both like were kind of in parallel with each other?
I actually, because Gene is a full-time editor, so he was doing us a favor by editing for us, and we gave him we haven't he actually donated his time, and so I was left to kind of do these kind of like small teaser kind of trailers, and then I ended up cutting one more trailer, which is the old one that got pulled up, just recently. But this trailer you just saw, we were able to go to this trailer editor named Lawrence Cohen, who hooked up our trailer and just brought it to life with music and fast cuts and kind of had a different eye on it, because we saw it's like, when you're editing a movie throughout the years, it just becomes numb almost at some point. You just don't see.
You don't have fresh eyes.
Yeah, we had such fresh eyes, and Lawrence was able to kind of bring a voice to the trailer. And we've rid with that trailer. I was like, oh my God, when he cut it, it was like almost like, oh dude, that's fantastic. I'm like, and he did a kick-ass job on it, So
yeah, and to answer your question also, yes, the movie was complete before the trailer was made.
Yes.
Oh wow. It's usually the opposite.
Yeah.
Usually he's like trying to shuffle to get the editing done, and the trailer is like the sneak a peek. There's an art to both. I think there's an art to making films. I'm such a huge movie buff, and I love trailers because it's like you really can see, especially when you go back. Like I love that there are old trailers of movies you love that you can see. Oh, this is a movie that I love now, but this was the trailer, and you either may have missed it or you still love it just as much. And then you also see like there are these spoofs. I know you guys have seen these. Like they do like The Shining as a romantic comedy, but it's a trailer. It's like, you really see that there's an art in the trailer because you can make a movie look so different just by the trailer. But what it comes down to is how the movie works, how the movie kind of, feels, and is there movement. How did you both feel as a producer duo? Oriol, I'm going to ask you first. When you watch that first cut or when you watch the final cut, how was that feeling? It had to be exhilarating because you're finally seeing the finished piece after living with this movie. So I want both of your perspectives as to what that was like when you finally saw it for the first time.
No, it was awesome. I was like, I can't believe we actually did this. And it's interesting that you're asking me this because I was sending this movie to another filmmaker that I'm working with so he can look at it the other day, and I just started watching the movie, and I was like, wow, I can't believe we're in this location. I can't believe we built these sets and it looks so real. I can't believe, we were shooting in my house. So yeah, no, seeing it all come together, and it was really funny because even at our screening, some of our actors and some other people were like, wow, this looks like a real movie.
You're like, yeah, duh.
Yeah, you think? We weren't making anything less than that. But, the surprise of what their expectations of some independent film is. And, for us to be on the top tier of what an independent film should look like makes me very happy.
That's awesome. What about you, Carlos? What was that feeling? I know you were very close to it. So when you finally saw it, and I'm sure you still look at it and you're like, man, I could have edited this or whatever it is. There's always little tweaks we always see with something finished that we still feel we can make it better. But how did you feel when you knew it was done or when you saw that first final cut?
I was relieved, and I say that because again, I cut an initial trailer, because one of my favorite filmmakers is Robert Rodriguez, and when I was going to film school. He was the quintessential guy that kind of like brought independent filmmaking to the stage. He did everything himself. He cut, he wrote, he shot, he directed. And I was like, oh fuck it, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this trailer. I'm gonna show people I can do this type of stuff. And my trailer was kind of like, I felt like it was just kind of more moody and slow, and it didn't have the perspective that I was trying to look for. I didn't even know what I was looking for. I'm just trying to, it's like. But when Lawrence cut it, it was like, and I saw it, I was like, oh, trailer editing is a specialty. It's something that you know, that people that do this for a living, they have a certain skill set that that I will not be able to do because they just have a different perspective, I think, you know, and my perspective, I think because I'm so attached to it, you know, I'm the cinematographer, so I want to make sure the best shots are on there, but you know what? That's not the case. You know, the case is the story needs to be told, and how can you hook people? And I don't have that. Ariel has the hook, you know, and then Lawrence has the perspective, and then, you know, and for them to kind of combine that together. And when I saw it, I was like, man, that actually feels really, really cool. It's a different perspective, you know. You know, again, from seeing the images for so long, you're just kind of numb to them, you know, and there's no new energy, you know. And again, his fresh eyes kind of brought a lot of energy to it, and I was really happy he did that.
That's amazing. Now, this movie's coming out April 1st, correct?
Yes.
All right. So now you're marketing this independent movie. Tell me what that process is like, because that is that's like shooting the movie all over again just to promote it and get eyes to it, you know. So what's your process, or how do you get people to be enticed, you know, to see the movie?
Well, I mean, I guess we could say that distribution was a big thing. So once we hooked up with the distributor, we do have our press person, who's Ryan Levy.
He's the best, by the way.
He is.
Let me tell you, I've been doing this show for maybe 10 years now.
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, something like that. And he's one of my favorite PR people. He always gives me excellent guests.
Good.
And it's like I built this vehicle to just make it for creators, and he's given me great creators like yourselves.
That's
so
awesome.
I can't speak enough great words about him. He's just awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like, you know, a little bit of social media and a little bit of press and you know, word of mouth. We have a lot of people that have been with us since the beginning, you know, contributors that, you know, started with our Indiegogo campaign, just believers that they knew the team that we have between Patrick, myself, and Carlos, that we're all talented, and we make this like really organized unit. And, you know, no one really had a doubt that we could actually get this done, even though it took us a little bit longer and a little bit of self-funding.
Well, you know, it's so funny. I tell people this all the time. I go through this with making albums. When anybody ever asks me, oh, when's the album going to be done? It's like, you don't tell the album when it's going to get done. The album tells you when it's going to get done, because that's how it works. And it's like, you'll know when it gets there, and that's it. Because anytime I put a timetable on anything music related, it's always 30% more on the budget and the time, because it takes more, because you know what's possible and you know what it takes to get there. And it's like, we want to make it great, you know? So I love that. But yeah, who cares if it takes 10 years?
Yeah.
You look at it and you're like, the fact that you guys are proud of it the way you are, that says it all. That makes anybody who is watching this, you know, want to watch a movie, because it's easy to dissect something that you make. It's just the instinct. As humans, we just want to pick things apart. So when you can actually sit back and enjoy it and go, oh, this is really good, that is a rare a voice that not many of us, you know, give each other, you know. So I'm excited to see this movie just based on the trailer and what you went through. I got to ask both of you, what is like some of the what were some of the biggest obstacles? And I know you had many because you already told us some. What were some of the biggest obstacles you went through making this movie?
Well, I can say on my end, this was the very first film. Like, you know, I was on that other low budget horror movie as like an associate producer, because I stepped in to like help out basically. But this was the very first film that I actually was a real producer on, because it was like taking something, a project, a script, and now having to build it from the ground all the way up, you know? So it was trials and tribulations of, you know, booking gear, being the weather elements, being in the desert, having tents fly away that we rented. There was, I think that was pretty much like just little things like that, just being able to, you know, make sure that people are coming back. Now it's like a year later, we had actors move away that was kind of like a little stress for all of us. But for me in production, that's pretty much what it was for me.
Yeah.
Good answers, and those sound crazy.
Yeah.
What about you, Carlos?
Finishing the film, there was a time where I was just like, we're never going to finish this movie. It's like, I was like, I remember reading all these stories about people taking years to make a film. I'm just like, and then when we were going through it, there was a point where it was just like, year 6. And I'm just like, dude, this movie's never going to get done. This is going to sit on the shelf, and it's like you're in the hole and there's never an end in sight. And that's when it kind of just deflates you. You start questioning yourself. You start questioning your validity, if you're even belong. It's like all these things come in your head. Are you doing the things you're supposed to be doing? But Patrick, man, he just kept that train going, man. Like I was like, sometimes I was just like, dude, I don't want to fucking do this anymore. It's not gonna work, because we were like 3/4 done, and I'm just like, dude, we still gotta get this, we still gotta get this, we still gotta get this. So I try to stay positive, and I just like maintaining the energy, the endurance throughout that time was tough for me. And then when it was done, the biggest thing for me was finding a distributor. Like, how do you find one? Like, how do you go? You hear all these horror stories. Like, how do you find a distributor? I cannot see it. I'm a very, I got to see things. What's the step-by-step process? You get a producer rep, and a producer rep goes find a distributor. And it's like, when you meet these distributors, are they going to have the common goal with you? And it's like all new waters for me, because being a creative, I didn't want to be a producer. I wanted to shoot, but it just fell into my lap, and I was like, okay, I'm going to take this head on. I'm going to do it. But again, the toughest part of it was finishing the film and getting out to distribution. And it's funny now because I talked to some of my producer friends that are real producers and stuff, because I'm not a real producer. Ariel's a real producer, and they just, they pat me in the back, go, bro, you finished the film. You did it, and that's the
finish line.
And again, that's the tough thing. It's to finish a film. It's so tough. It's like everyone says it. It's tough. And until you go through it, you kind of just like go, okay, I see where you're going on. And now we've learned so much, and we're really excited because Still Burning and Burn It Down is part 2 and 3 of Burn. They've already been written, and this time around, Los Productions and Standing Outcome Films are not going to take 10 years to get this film done. We're going to get this done right this time, because we're going to have distribution up front. We're going to have talent up front. We're going to have funds in place up front. And we'll knock everything out in a way shorter time than we did with these films. So we've learned a lot, I think, and I think we've become the people.
This was our little baby.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also, I always find that, like, I tell artists this all the time. The first one is always the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're learning the process. You're learning who the personnel are going to be. You're seeing personnel coming and going. It's just part of the process. You see, okay, people are, like you said actors were moving away. Maybe crew were changing. Facilities were changing. And it's like you have all these moving parts. That's why I find it so remarkable that you guys were able to finish it. And it took as long as it did for the reasons that it looks the way it does. I've had so many filmmakers and films come through on this show, and it's like, your trailer looks amazing. I can tell you that. I've seen so many, and they don't all look like that, So it's like, you never know what you're gonna get, and it's really nice when you see filmmakers or a producer duo like yourselves take the time, like, marinate on it, not get. It's easy to get deflated. That's part of the process too. Yeah. I think most people take for granted how much artists go through that deflation period, like not feeling like they're part of the universe and that, the world of film or making art, and you have to push through and persevere through that. And that's what you guys have done. And it's tremendous. So, like, the real reward is you finish the movie, and now you've got distribution, you got all these things in place. You've got a plan for 2 and 3. How has this process that you've all gone through affected how you initially thought making films would be, and how you want to make films from this point forward?
I think it's smarter. It's like you know, you go through kindergarten and elementary school, and by the time you're graduating 6th grade, like you're not at the same level as you were when you were a preschooler, you know? So it's
Right.
like now we know the mistakes that we've made along the road, or the things that we've done that have made things a little bit harder. And now we know the easier route to do it. And, you know, but it's a process of learning. Like, I don't think you could be a filmmaker and just go in and figure it all out when you're doing things by yourself, you know? Those are the people that wind up getting stuck in contracts that, you know, they're not gonna ever see a dime on their films that they make. So, you know, I think that's a big, it's just a learning process. And so I think we have the tools now for walking into the next film. We have the tools in place. We know what we have to do first, you know, like Carlos was saying, distribution and financing and, you know, different things, talent and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, but also I have to say, a little bit off the subject, we couldn't have done this movie without our crew and the support of our crew. Everybody was just so kind. So many people came in and did so much stuff for free. And so many people were just like, they believed in us. And at the end of the day, you know, they walked away from our film sets going, God, you guys are like a family. Like,
Wow.
the way that we treated our crew and the way that, you know, we were so thankful and grateful for everything that they did, you know, at the end of the day, that made it super special. So when that little deflation was happening, it was like, you got to keep going even for these people, you know, because they're banking on you for doing it too.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing. It's like I think there's something to be said about when you have a team of people looking for the leadership to, like, they're in it with you.
Yeah.
And it's like, it puts sometimes more pressure on you guys to lead the parade, you know what I mean? But when you do it and when you put one foot in front of the other, that is the greatest, like, accomplishment. I mean, people don't really understand how hard it is to do it with a group of 5 people, let alone how many total people were in your total crew, maybe 50?
Oh yeah, I mean, by the end of it, we had like around 50 to 75 people, and
Yeah.
then some of them are uncredited and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, to piggyback, you know, it's a team building exercise, and the thing is, like, you find your team, you know,
Right.
and I'm always willing to meet new people and network with new people and see what they bring to the table, you know, because they kind of keep you grounded and stuff like that. But you know, we met a lot of people along the way. We've met new friends, and God. Man, me, Patrick, and Oriel. I mean, it's like, who was to say that, you know, that little shitty movie we were doing in Anza became this, you know?
Yeah.
And now, like, you know, Patrick and Oriel, we've shot all these little short films while we were doing this. We were doing, you know, films that were getting awards. And, I mean, at one point we won in a competition that gave us $15,000 for post-sound mixing, which we would have gotten for, you know, that would have been $15,000 out of our pockets. But we didn't do that because we did short films, you know, and that made us, you know, and it's an exercise. You start to get better. You start to get more efficient. The shorthand is there, you know, it's just, yeah, we've learned so much from this whole process. And then it's funny because then you go into other independent films and you try to bring that experience and try to pass it on to other people, and you know, and help them with their projects, you know, because they came onto your film.
Yeah.
We return that favor, you know, and like Ariel was saying, like, these people were really appreciative. We did pay some people, but other people, we fed them, we housed them, if they needed transportation, if they needed fuel,
even the learning ability
to help them, you know.
Yeah.
Because, again, you know, some people were completely green and never been on a set before, you know, and it's like, but you know, they love working with us, you know, and it's like, I can't wait to work with them again. And it's like, now it becomes fun, you know. It's like, okay, we're on set, we're having a good time, you know, and you know, everyone's contributing and stuff like that. So yeah, man,
I just think it's funny though, once the film is done and then you're like, oh God, I'm never making a film again. And then like 2 weeks later, we're like,
almost, you
we're
know?
all itchy. We're all sitting at the table. Patrick, Carlos, and I are like, okay, we need to shoot. We got to do something. We got to write something.
We get the itch. Okay, well, why don't we do this? And that's funny. That's how the Restless movie came up. You know, let's do a movie on a phone. It was like no one's doing a movie on a phone. We were doing it like an iPhone 10. No one was doing movies. Now everyone's doing movies on phones, and we're just like, yeah, sure. And that movie's playing right. Actually, we have a screening next Tuesday at the
March 1st at the Chinese Theater.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's awesome. That's right by me. You got to send me info.
Yeah, we'll send you the link.
All right. Well, I'm gonna end the interview with this last question.
Sure.
Now, what would you tell after all this process? What would you tell that first year Marine? All that you've learned, what would you tell that person if you went back in time? You said you were watching movies in the theaters to escape. You were figuring out what you wanted to do. What would you tell that person now, having gone through everything you've gone through?
Well, I hope you're listening out there. Our daughter's a U.S. Marine right now.
Oh, wow.
She's over in Pensacola, Florida right now.
Oh, that's awesome. That's where my girlfriend's from. That's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, what would I tell the first year Marine that maybe wants to get into film? Is that the question?
Yep, or just in life, just, empowering information.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say take everything that the military and the Marines teaches you. Sometimes it makes no sense, but there's always meaning behind it. And, if you can enjoy the process of doing it, because some people go in there and they're like, oh, God, I hate this and stuff like that. And it's just like, oh, it's so stressful. But if you can actually take something away from it and learn from it, you're going to know in your heart exactly what path you want to be taking in life. And I think that's what, being a Marine, it gives you direction. It gives you that soul where you have to think within yourself and figure it out on your own. And, it's not somebody just telling you what to do all the time, even though they do that in the Marines. But within yourself, you'll find your path, and you'll have the mentality and the clarity to do the things that you need and want to do.
Great answer. What about you, Carlos?
For me, it's 3 words: believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, you'll never get shit done. It's like, when everyone's doubting you and all that stuff, to be honest, me personally, I'm my own worst enemy. So I always try to tell myself, believe in yourself. You're making film. You wanted to do this. You're here. Yes, it sucks. It's hour 13. You're hungry. You're tired, but you're making movies. And you know what? I'm living a dream now. So that's what it is, living a dream. It feels like a nightmare sometimes, but it's the dream. But just believe in yourself.
I've got a sign in my music room. It says, if you're on the right path, it's always uphill. And it's really the truth, because
I love that.
No one really learns anything when things are easy. That's not what shapes you. It's like going through the trenches of what you do, making this movie. That's what shaped this movie.
Yeah.
Drove the narrative and the vision to complete it. And that's what's going to, compel people to want to see more movies and more stories from you guys. Real quick, where can people find your movie, and where can people find you if they want to, know more about you or hire you for their next film shoot?
Well, we have a website. It's losproductionsinc.com that they can come and check out Carlos and myself. We're also on Facebook platforms and Instagram. And VOD, we're getting our package within the next week, so we'll have all the platforms. I can send you an update with all of that if you'd like, but awesome. It should be, it's Apple, Amazon, all those fun places.
Well, we like those places.
Yeah.
Well, Carlos, Oriel, you guys are wonderful guests. You're wonderful artists. We wish you nothing but the best for this movie, Burn. Thank you for being guests on Wake Up Hollywood.
Thank you.
You have an open window to come back for any future movies. I'd love to just keep showcasing you guys as artists. That's what this whole vehicle is, to do that. And we've had Oscar-nominated people. We've had beginning artists. The whole point is, let's showcase artists as a community and showcase their careers in as many ways as possible, because that's what it's about. It's about just creating something and making people feel something, because what else in life is there, really, right? If there's one thing the pandemic showed us, it's like the entire world shut down and it was all music, TV, and
Absolutely.
They relied on to get them through it. So you're more important than you ever will know, and just keep creating. Thank you so much for doing what you do. I can't wait to see the movie. Check out Burn April 1st on all platforms, and we'll see you guys next week. On behalf of Carlos, Ariel, myself, and Sam, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Peace and love, people.
Bye.
You're listening to Wake Up Hollywood with Nikki Korula and Eddie Pence, right here on LA Talk Radio.